Richards trying to scoot in there alone. It pinballs to the crease. Score!
Let's get it.
Oh my God! Here we go.
You're listening to the Pod Street Blues Podcast with your hosts, Derek.
How you gonna get it, Bobby?
John. Matt Casey.
Unnecessary, but totally necessary.
And Cody.
What's not to love?
What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Pod Street Bullies. While we wait on Hoagie to figure out why he looks like
Where'd he go?
in the Avengers, I don't know.
Why no Hoagie?
Where is Hoagie?
He'll pop in
Where
eventually.
is Hoagie?
Hopefully, he's pulling a me from last week, really. But do we have him? Is he coming in?
I don't know. Just keep talking.
Hoagie. Nope. Okay, Hoagie's here. Perfect. Awesome. Well, my name is Derek, one quarter of the Pod Street Bullies. I'm going to throw it over to John.
Hi, I'm John. What's going on, everybody?
And joined by always, Matt Casey. What's happening, man?
Sharp broadcast so far, boys. I love it.
Doing great, right? Hoagie seems to have things figured out, which is nice. So, Hoagie, how's it going, man?
It's going great. I figured out, I can't be in high def. I got to be standard. Got to be just like the Flyers.
You bougie mother trucker trying to get high def.
Some people have a face for standard def, Hoagie.
Yes, thank you for going standard def for us there.
You're
Appreciate it. We got a lot to cover tonight. We recorded last week right before the Chuck Fletcher press conference. Didn't get a chance to touch on that, obviously, because it didn't happen. So we're going to be touching a lot on that tonight. A couple things with Giroux as well. And then John's going to be an a-hole. And that's
Just
that's
at
our
the
shtick.
end of the show?
No, that meant like throughout the show.
Okay.
I prefaced everything by saying throughout the show.
Okay.
Yeah, so first and foremost here, Christ, how do we dissect this press conference? I mean, Chuck Fletcher, Dave Scott, Lord knows why Dave Scott was up there. Did nothing for any of us. But, the state of the team presser, tons to say. First and foremost, everything is on the table here. We're looking at a trade deadline looming in the next, month and a half. We're looking at free agency coming up at the end of the season, but obviously trade deadline more pressing. Medical staff, coaching, developmental staff. Before we start really getting into the different aspects and what was said during the press conference, what's the one thing that stuck out the most to you, John, when Chuck Fletcher and Dave Scott were addressing the media?
Well, there was a direction that was mentioned. It was obvious that Dave Scott was like, we're not rebuilding. He said this whole 3 to 5 year plan is not what we're going to do. It kind of gave us an idea because we've gone back and forth, right? Are we blowing it up? Are we going to try to retool? And by the time, at least when Dave Scott was talking, it felt like the Flyers were going to try to go all in to fix this again, that he wants results next season. Not sure I buy that, but it was nice at least to have some sort of direction. The other interesting thing that I noticed, and then I'll shut up and let somebody else talk, is there is clearly a difference in philosophy because Chuck Fletcher was like, we need star power, and you get that star power through the draft. And Dave Scott's like, I ain't waiting around for no draft. Like, no, we're not patiently waiting for somebody, to take that role in the draft. We're going out open checkbook type deal. So clearly they don't see eye to eye here. And Dave Scott, to my understanding, is going to get his way, not necessarily Chuck Fletcher getting his way.
Which will be another topic of conversation that I want to touch on later. But first, Hoagie, your biggest takeaway here from the press conference that was held last week.
I mean, you can't be mad at it. I mean, you can be, but you can't be. Like, it's just the same old type of press conference that we're used to of, just there's injuries, there's this, there's that, there's excuses. I mean, the one thing I did like Dave Scott saying, the injuries are there, but it's not an excuse. It's just reality. We have to just tie up our boots and keep going, keep plugging away. But someone did say, like, why are you guys not stepping up to the table when every other team is going through COVID, going through injuries, bans, and stuff like this? So it's frustrating, but I waited till today to actually listen to it because I knew it would just be the same old crap that we're used to.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Matt Casey?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say a couple things. Number one, there is nothing these guys could have said during this press conference where Flyers would have been like, kudos, gentlemen, way to go. Right. Like, every Flyers fan out there is looking for a head and like, hey, these guys are two heads. There's no doubt about it. They certainly have some responsibility here. And I think they've acknowledged this stuff, or at least Fletcher did. I'll say, two of the things that kind of jumped out at me were Scott saying, hey, you have a blank check, which is always encouraging. Hey, you're not going to be limited by finances as,
just a salary cap.
Yeah, no big deal.
There's different layers.
$82.5 million.
Right.
Now, here's what I say as part of that, though, is like, we're going to upgrade our medical staff. We're going to upgrade our analytics. We heard that exact same thing last summer, like verbatim. And so I don't know if he just dusted off the transcript, but like, okay, how about giving us an update on what has happened on the analytics side? What's going on with the medical staff now that AV is not there, popping out Bezo or what are we calling those? Benzos. We have? I was looking on there. It's us in Buffalo. We have the two most amount of players on injured reserve right now of any team in the NHL. We have 10. I would argue that probably 6 of those are like legit regular, so that's 30% of your team right there. So
math.
So I don't know. The blank check, but then I'm hearing a little bit more of like regurgitated talking points that we heard this past summer.
Yeah. Now, what confuses me, I don't even know if I should say confuses more so than honestly, it kind of frustrates me. There is a very clear disconnect between Fletcher and Scott. Whereas, yes, as a businessman, whatever business you're venturing in, you want it to be successful. So, first and foremost, there's that. Second, though, you've hired a man who is now costed to run this team, but it doesn't seem like he's being afforded that opportunity because it seems like Dave Scott's the guy that's going to be breathing down his neck, telling him, I need this, I need that. You want to stay competitive. Okay, that's fine. Is this team going to be able to stay competitive the way it's constructed, the way it's built? We still have guys like Kevin Hayes, who is out for Lord knows how long now, has been out and on and off and on and off. Couturier's done right now. Ellis, we've dealt with plenty of COVID issues, sure, but that's life, at this point. These injuries are happening way too frequently for there to not be something wrong. So the medical staff thing, hearing about that was encouraging, that they need to be working on that. But I'm more concerned about the fact that this, to me, and I mean, you peel back the layers, call it what you will, I really do think Dave Scott is going to do much more harm than helping out in this situation, because there's going to be that pressure that he's going to apply to Chuck Fletcher to make more moves, to make this team competitive, when honestly, I said it on the Royal Rumble episode of High and Wide, this team does need a reset, not an aggressive retool. It needs a rebuild at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but here's the thing, like, I totally agree that Dave Scott should stay out of hockey player decisions. I don't think that this guy should be the one saying, like, hey, we need to bring so-and-so to this roster, right? We need to fill this roster with whoever. Mm-hmm. But it is his job to apply pressure on Chuck Fletcher. Chuck Fletcher took this job not as a rebuild. He took this job as a bring this team to the next level, right? That's what he signed on to do. And I think that Dave Scott and ownership have every right to be like, listen, you have one more time to hit it out of the park because we don't want to rebuild. Now, whether we believe that that's the right path, ownership has every right to do that. And again, Chuck Fletcher wasn't brought on to rebuild this team. And if they decide to rebuild this team, I think they go with a different general manager.
They'd be better suited to do so. I don't think Chuck Fletcher is the guy that you want at the helm if we're talking rebuild. But at the same rate, it's like the pressure being applied, is it good pressure or bad pressure? Like there is good pressure and people come out of it looking better than they did beforehand. But then there's the pressure of Dave Scott. It's being fueled by basically being a money grubbing, whatever you want to call it. Like he wants this team to thrive and he wants to make money off of this team, but he's not. Mm-hmm. He's not right now. He's not going to unless things turn around. And by putting that type of pressure on Chuck Fletcher is what concerns me the most, because now he's going to be forced to make moves in which he might not make under normal circumstances, because now he's basically fighting for his job, which, okay, that's fair. But again, I don't know where I want to go with this, but yeah.
I mean, look, it doesn't take an Ivy League education to figure out that a good team is a good product, and you're going to get more people in seats, you're going to get more merchandise, more concessions. Like, it's a good business decision. So we're all ultimately heading in the same direction. We want the same thing. And look, Chuck may have one way of doing it, and Scott, who is, self-proclaimed not a hockey guy, he wants to see the bottom line. And in a weird way, you kind of need to have both of those things happen at once. I would say, I think Chuck has had some opportunities. He's the one who hand-selected AV and that staff to come in. And meanwhile, Scott came in with the trump card and was just like, boom, here you go. Like, shot the moon, AV's done. Like, that clearly was not Chuck's choice because it was done so hastily. And so I think there is division of power happening here, and Chuck at some point might just be like, okay, like this just isn't for me. Like I'm not the guy. I'm this guy's puppet who's just going George Steinbrenner on me and making ridiculous decisions and without a lot of thought for consequence. Now look, I also don't agree that this is a tear down rebuild. I do think there's an okay slate of players. I don't think it's a great core, and I'm gonna preface that it's not a great core.
Sure.
Because if it was, this wouldn't have happened 2 years in a row.
For sure.
And so that's my biggest thing is that there's clearly a core issue here, and injuries play into it, no doubt about it. I don't even think COVID's played into it as much, but there is a core issue. And I think, namely Giroux, just because he's been here the longest, a change of scenery. It's got to happen. It's got to happen for the betterment of everybody. And so I think that's the direction that it needs to go.
Mm-hmm. No, that's absolutely a fair assessment. But when you take a look at, let's talk, rebuild here for a second. And we've discussed it a plethora of times. It feels like we're just beating a dead horse at this point. But that's about all we're getting.
Yeah.
The core group right now, total side note, a core group that Dave Scott can't even name. They mentioned the aggressive
that guy with the beard. He skates pretty good.
You got Mayhew.
Yeah. That
he's a young buck. He's like, dude, he's 30.
That'll be the next 7x7 deal. Yay. Again, let's talk aggressive retool here. I guess what I'm trying to say is there a way for this team to quote unquote aggressively retool and have any modicum of success without having to tear it down at this point? Because again, this is not necessarily a rotten core, but this core is not working. So, sure, the obvious thing is trading away Giroux, getting what you can for him. Then who are you building around? I mean, obviously, what? You guys can say it.
I think you have Carter Hart, you have Farabee.
Is that all though?
Carter Hart, Farabee.
I mean, hell of a core there, right?
You're going to have
Dave Scott's all in on Couturier and Ellis as well.
Well, you're going to have to put Couturier as a part of that core. He's going into a brand new contract.
Sure,
exactly.
But is he the right guy to put in that core? I mean, when
healthy, yes. I do think he is.
There you go.
But
when healthy,
there's an asterisk when healthy for every single player, and there's no doubt about it. And I think now it's going to be an aggressive retool, but also you somehow have to do both because you need to account for the fact that Ellis and Couturier and Hayes, as the core of the core, they've all been injured. Now throw Farabee in there as well. Nobody's coming out unscathed here, except for somehow Keith Yandel.
And,
What a coincidence.
and listen, I mean, the way I view it, and then listening to guys like Elliot Friedman or whatever, I think that they're going to try to move enough contracts to be aggressive players where we're looking at a completely different group that we could call a core, right? You know, you throw a guy like Johnny Gaudreau in here, you pay him that much money, he's a part of your core. Nazem Kadri, guess what? You're going to pay that much money. And I'd love to dive deeper into that conversation because I think that's an interesting conversation. But that's part of your core. You know, I think that Dave Scott, Chuck Fletcher looks at this and goes, this isn't an aggressive retool. This is a complete facelift.
And I'll stand by my statement. Oh, sorry, Hoagie. Go ahead. You've been quiet.
I'm just saying they just did a facelift. But
well, they're going to do it again. Part 2, like Casey said, part 2 of the facelift.
I'm still standing by my theory. What's happening? I'm still standing by my theory that we're in year one of a 3-year rebuild. And like last year, we got rid of a core piece in Voracek and then fringe guys who it was clear weren't going to cut it. And I think even on their new teams, it's clear they're not going to cut it. So like, thank God we got something for them. And then rest in peace, Bobby Haig. But then this year, it's like, okay, we got to remove another key piece of the core and be able to start bringing in other pieces that may make sense. So I don't know. I still feel like we're year one into the 3-year trajectory right now. And I think next year hopefully is better. The following year, we better be a playoff team and like decisively a playoff team.
Now, how is that going to happen, though? I mean, because we've talked about...
You keep asking that question, man. If we knew...
Yeah. If you would just let me finish. Holy hell, man. So I'm going to go to Hoagie first because John just pissed me off. And quite frankly, Hoagie hasn't gotten a word in edgewise here. But how is that going to happen? Because Philadelphia is no longer a destination. Like, yeah, okay, last season, Keith Yandel wanted to come here. We all know why now, because no one else would have him. How are you going to convince people to come here, whether it's through trade, which, I mean, you could force somebody, or free agency even? I mean, how do you sell Philadelphia at this point?
I mean, we've had this conversation. There is no selling Philadelphia at this point. I mean, the way we've played this season, 2 10-plus game losing streaks, like
on top of last season too. Yeah,
right on top of last season. I'm not. If I'm a player, I don't want to go to Philly. That's not a winning attitude. Even though Dave Scott is preaching on we have a winning attitude, and winning's not just about having a winning record. It's about winning the Stanley Cup. We haven't won the Stanley Cup since the 70s. Something's got to change. Like, I don't know how they're going to do it. It might just have to be internally. Use who you have in the AHL.
I disagree. I think that there is an opportunity to sell the idea of bringing this franchise back to its glory days. I think that some people are interested in that. I do. I mean,
people who love movies from like 30 years ago, sure.
All right,
I love movies from 30 years ago, so yeah.
I do too, but I'm not going to change this direction of the team.
Listen, I think if Chuck Fletcher sits in there and goes, you with Cam Atkinson, so-and-so player, right, healthy Ryan Ellis, like, and we have no idea what his full vision is, because again, if this was just part one of it, if he's able to sell that he believes that with this group, I do think that some people would come aboard. Especially if they're given an opportunity to prove that they are a true difference maker. Like, you look at somebody like Nazem Kadri. Again, love to go into this more, but it's like, Kadri, you have the opportunity to bring the snarl back to Philadelphia that the Flyers want. You don't think that's going to be a selling point? Hell yeah, it is. I disagree. I disagree wholeheartedly.
Look, what's his biggest contract that he signed to date? Maybe 4 or 5 mil. That guy is going to cash in. And you think he's going to want to cash in a spot where he knows he's not going to win? Stanley Cups mean probably just as much as money does.
But
if I'm Kadri, I'm looking anywhere but Philly. Yeah,
well,
I love the talent that he's playing with.
I'm not saying they should sign him. I'm just saying that there would be a selling point for it.
A shitty one.
He wants to win. He's not going to
Okay.
win in Philly. He sat in freaking Toronto for how many years? Come on.
But you need to, here's the thing, though. It's like everybody's like, well, everybody wants to hop on to a winner, and I totally understand that. But for the most part, winners have their big contracts pretty freaking settled, right? Some people need to join teams to make them winners.
Okay.
You know? So
I think that's a fair point.
It is.
So somebody's going to do it. It's not like Philadelphia is Columbus, and I'm sorry, Columbus. Like there is if you do well in the city of Philadelphia, you are a god. So if you could be a part of that, if someone can convince you that that's possible, I'm sorry, but yes, that is a selling point. It's not as easy as some other franchises right now, but again, it's not freaking Arizona, like there's still some hope.
I'll say this too. I'll say one of the selling points is the fact that Chuck is able to bring in a new coaching staff from scratch. And I do think that's a selling point versus like, hey, you're coming in to this total SHIT show and we still have the same coaching staff. Like where clearly nothing, it's like, okay, it's going to be a breath of fresh air. You can see every coach pushes different buttons. Maybe it works for some players. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. Like some people might not want to play for whoever we bring in. Some of them may be dying to play for them. And in terms of like the location and stuff, like, I don't know. Does anybody really think that Dougie Hamilton wanted to spend his career in Newark, New Jersey? Like,
Right.
I think it's tough to play like the location and not being able to win card. Like, I don't think the Devils are anywhere closer to getting better than we are right now. So I don't know.
I find it hard to believe though that Kadri is if not the guy, one of the guys that's going to help turn this team around. Like, you 32 years old. This is the best season that he's ever had. Are we going to be able to expect that type of play from him though? Like, again, to Hoagie's point, you've got a guy that's playing with Nathan McKinnon, that's playing with Cale Makar, Gabe Landeskog. He's playing with top-tier talent. Giroux likely won't be here next year. So there goes one guy. You've got Couturier, and if he stays healthy, sure, that's something. But they're not going to play on the same line. They're both centers. So who do you pair him with? Cam Atkinson? Like, okay, Cam's good. I like Cam Atkinson, personally. Not on the same level as a Landeskog or a McKinnon by any means.
If you could swap out Kevin Hayes, though, I would take Kadri in a heartbeat. He just has something that I was just using his name as an example because it came up. I'm not trying to preach that we should throw $8 million at Nazem Kadri.
Yeah, sure.
But like, he does have parts of his game that this team desperately needs.
Of course.
I don't think that the offensive production is going to stay, but if we could swap out Kevin Hayes, I'd rather take Kadri at this point.
All right, and you bring up a good point there.
Do that, though. How are you going to swap out Hayes when Kadri's?
I don't know, man. You kick me $6 million a year, and I'll figure it out.
I'm just throwing out.
I'll make it work.
I don't know, Casey. These two are being difficult.
What's?
Because
I'm not totally familiar with here. Like, what are Kadri like? How many goals in it? Like, what's his point total?
What, he's like the fifth
It's like the
leading
highest
scorer in the NHL? Yeah.
Right.
I'll look it up.
Because I don't know, man. I'm looking at what this team lacks. I do think, even despite the fact Ellis is gone, I think our D core, sadly, is still better than it was a year ago. And so I think we need to take another step there.
Kadri's got 18 goals and 41 assists in 40 games.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
It's good.
What do we need the most out right now is goals. Like, we need some goals in there. And whether it's Kadri or somebody else, like, again, I don't know Kadri all that well, but we saw what happens when top line players can score goals. Last week at our first victory in 13 games, Atkinson was shot out of a cannon and, doing all sorts of great stuff. And so I think we need to still strengthen the back line a little bit. I still think it's not as bad as people think, but there's some depth issues there. And then we need to find some goals. Enough of the 200-foot player stuff. Like, we need to find some goals.
Agreed. I mean, historically speaking, with Kadri's career, most points he ever had in a season was 61 back in 16-17. So
He's about
even
to surpass
that. Yeah, but like even 61 points in 82 games, like sure, that's great. But is it going to be worth the money that this guy's going to garner on the free market this offseason?
Yeah, I mean, you got to choose your spots because I don't want to go into another like Kevin Hayes situation where like, maybe he bounces back next year, maybe not. I don't know. But like, man, we're paying that guy a ton of money to not play. And even when he does play, not play very well. So, yeah, I mean, you got to take a swing at somebody at some point to make this thing better. If it's Kadri or not, I don't know. But, no.
I mean, I think the thing is too, right? It's like for so long, we're always just talking about 2-3 years down the line, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is this going to look like? I'm not saying we are anywhere near this because we're not right now, but I want to be, it's like, you know what? I don't give a shit what we look like in 3 years, but this year we look freaking good. Like, that's what I want. And if we got 1-2 good years out of like a Kadri, Gaudreau, who the hell knows who else, I'll take it at this point. I'll take it. I'll take the suffering afterwards because I can't keep dealing with this. Well, in 3 years, we might have this, or it's going to look really bad in 2 or 3 years. Like, if we could look good for the now and maybe the year after, I'm willing to just completely jumble it up, get a bunch of big contracts in, and then we can have the same conversation about how they suck in 2 years.
That's fair. I mean, we all want the success. We want this team to do well. It's not like we're actively rooting against them, but, this whole
there's a lot of the fan base that actively roots against.
There is, yeah.
I mean, with their playing as of late,
right. But
I just don't know
well,
what
it's like
showing up.
Yeah.
But I think you just have to take it as like, okay, if Dave Scott really is the shot caller that we're all saying that he is, and this guy's saying that he wants to I see it over there, Casey. And he wants to aggressively retool, right? Then this team is not rebuilding. So let's stop talking about the down the road. Let's just go focus on next season then. Let's go make this thing look like a freaking powerhouse for a year. I don't know. But I just think we've got to stop with this so many years down the road and worrying what it's going to look like, especially when your owner is saying, no, I don't want to do that.
That's what we've become accustomed to, though. Everything is always okay.
Right.
Like in the next couple years, like that time never came.
Right.
We've missed the boat on that so bad. We're stuck on whatever island Gilligan was on. It's bad.
Right.
Gilligan's Island.
Yeah, Gilligan's Island. That's the one. They named it after him.
Wow.
How did I miss that?
Home run right there.
What was the name of that island?
I never realized that he filed the correct paperwork to have that island named after him. So my apologies
Final
there,
Jeopardy
Gilligan.
right there.
What was the name of
Name
the
the
island?
island.
Oh shit, I don't know. No, I mean, fair point. I would much rather have this team just say, screw it, we're going balls to the walls, than worry about these contracts, because what does it matter to us? We're not paying these guys. Right. Who cares? Let the bean counters figure that out. That's their problem. But this team's already at this point in the season right now, we've bottomed out. There's no questions about that.
We're not even the one of the.
Yeah, but bottoming out is not necessary.
Bottoming out is not necessary.
They said that during the press conference.
You're right.
Those exact lines. It's not necessary. They don't want to do that.
Maybe it should.
I don't think they chose to, buddy. They just suck.
Yeah, but they don't want to bottom
Some
out.
people wake up and choose to
suck. The first overall pick. You know what I'm saying? They're not pulling Edmonton's every year.
Sure.
Well, I'm okay with that. I don't like tanking.
No.
And there's also a draft lottery that prevents you from doing such a thing, Hogs.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. We could talk for days about this press conference and what surrounds it, but we kind of foreshadowed into the next topic here, talking about Kadri, talking about Gaudreau as well. It was brought up on Elliot Friedman's 32 Thoughts podcast. Friedman basically said, Kadri would be a flyer if he hits the open market. John, you've gone into it about Kadri, how you'd like him. Not the biggest fan in the world, but I'll take it.
You said it.
Did you?
You said it.
Do you want?
airwaves?
All All right, multiple choice question. Do you want Nazem Kadri on the Flyers? A, yes, B, no.
If other things can happen, A.
That's not part of the question, though.
Okay, well, that's part of the answer.
Well, that's a terrible answer, and you
It's
failed.
not open-ended.
So, next one. Matt Casey, same question. A or B, yes or no?
Oh, you're going to do this right now? We can't have a conversation about it?
We didn't even really have the conversation. You just talked.
That's too difficult. That's too difficult of an open-ended question.
Stupid question.
Guys, no wonder you guys both
do I want him on the
sucked in
team?
school.
Yes, I
Right.
would like him on the team, but at what cost? Like, what is the cost that you're actually doing?
And who's still on the team? Like, who are we able to remove? It's a huge part.
Literally, this is just the
Mr.
simplest
Pitchfork,
question.
Dave Scott. Air B, Dave Scott's ruining the world.
Not just the Flyers. That is my world, though.
and apparently New York fans, because they can't get Rangers games on Comcast, which is great.
Good. The hell with them.
Yeah.
All right. So let's pose this question. This is a little bit easier. In a vacuum, John Gove, I hope you're paying attention.
Yep.
Nazem Kadri or Johnny Gaudreau. Who do you want?
Johnny Gaudreau.
Matt Casey?
How old's Gaudreau?
Just around the same.
I said in a vacuum, damn it.
Are we talking Dyson or?
We're talking sharp.
28.
Those old rainbow
I go
vacuums that the
Gaudreau.
salesman come
I'm
door
going
to door.
Gaudreau for age, scoring ability, and the fact he'll bring excitement to the city.
Hoagie.
Johnny Hockey all day.
All right, so I'm going reverse order now. Please elaborate on that, Hoagie.
Kind of like what Casey said. It's the hometown kid. He'll bring some more excitement to the stadium, to the games. I mean, and he's got a knack for scoring goals, man. Better than Kadri, that's for sure.
All right, Matt Casey.
Well, going off of what I said before, and I'll add one more in there, is that you talk about the people not wanting to come to Philadelphia. Like, Gaudreau's a name that people would want to come and play with in Philadelphia.
Sure.
And so I think that's another good positive there.
John Gove.
I mean, just something different than what everybody else said. Some star power. I mean, he's a known name in the NHL. You know, Nazem Kadri he's a known name to hockey fans, but you know, Gaudreau is somebody that you see in commercials every once in a while with highlights. I think he brings a level of star power that this team desperately needs.
Sure.
T-shirt
Sure.
jerseys all around.
He's an all-star. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Is that really like an honor these days?
So
Every
is
team's
Travis
an all-star.
Konechny.
Listen, not
But
these
it's
days,
not
but,
Travis Konechny.
but the all-star, like he's been multiple time all-star, whatever you want to call it. But like, that helps his face and his name
Right.
be known.
I think that's legit. Like, let me ask you guys a question though. Like, do you guys care about the All-Star game? Like,
Nope.
I literally care. I don't think I've watched an All-Star game, I swear to God, since like 1993.
I like the skills competition.
I
It's
enjoy
at
the
least
skills
entertaining.
competition.
Right. The game itself, I'm just like, God, I'm bored. This is so
I don't
Especially
give a
now
damn.
with the 3v3, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like every player. I mean, every team needs a player.
right.
Yeah. That's lame.
And
That's
the fact,
incredibly
but
lame.
like this kind of goes back to Hoagie's point. It's like, look, an All-Star, like I think it's good, and I especially think like when guys are negotiating contracts, like it's like, hey, this guy's a 3-time All-Star. Like,
Right.
you know, what are you actually doing here? But the fact that you look at like so many superstars are like, they're like, oh, dude, I'd do anything to get out of this thing.
Right.
Like
Ovechkin every year.
every year.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
And
And
then
I
maybe
get
you
it.
miss the
I
game
get it. As a
after.
young father, he travels around. It's like, give the guy a week off, for God's sakes.
But if you miss it, you have to miss the next regular season game
Yes.
after the All-Star
Yeah.
break.
Oh, I would
Get a
take it. I'd
suspension.
be like, whatever.
Right? Like they make you essentially. They're like, okay, you can miss it, but you're gonna miss one of your team games.
Right.
And it's like they
Man,
try
I
to
wish we could-
handcuff you.
I wish Yandel would do that. Not play the All-Star game.
That's
So
what we
he'd
should
have
have
to
done.
be in the All-Star game.
yeah, right.
Does that count towards his Iron Man streak? Though is the real question.
Probably.
Gives him one up on Phil Kessel.
He would count it.
Yeah. No, I agree with you guys. I'd rather Johnny Gaudreau. One, because hometown guy, it would get people interested again. Big name when it comes to not just hockey, but the sport, like the whole sporting world. And then more simply, he's the goal scorer out of the two. Between him and Kadri, you can count on Gaudreau to probably score twice as many goals as Kadri does. So that's the guy I want on this team. We have enough playmakers. We have enough 200 feet people. We need guys that know offense and do it well.
I mean, Gaudreau also hasn't scored, you know, he scored 36 goals 2018-19, and then it's been 18-19-17. I mean, obviously you've got the COVID thing. I get it, but like he's not like a huge big time goal scorer.
Well, no, but his abilities to score.
I'm all for him. Yeah, I'm just saying like he's not like Vlad Tarasenko.
No, of course not. But like at this point, are we going to get somebody like Vlad Tarasenko to want to come to the Flyers? Gaudreau's our best shot.
Yeah. I still think there's a way we get both.
And how is that way?
Mix some trades.
I don't care. Give up Sanheim. I'm so freaking done with Sanheim.
Right.
Like,
he's a hero, Matt Casey.
Lock it in.
There you go.
Travis Sanheim's a hero. How do we get rid of that?
Oh, dude, he is such a dud. He is a dud. Every time I watch him on the ice, I'm just like, what are you doing, man? You're not especially fast. You're not big. You're not physical. You don't have this great offensive prowess that people are trying to tout. Like, get off the ice.
Has he been given the chance, though, to really fully blossom into that offensive defenseman? Has he?
Yes.
He has?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. You can elaborate.
There is no elaborating. You see it night in, night out. He skates up the ice like he's a freaking winger, and he gets sucked down too low, and there goes the other team, 3-on-1, because he left his partner to dry. I'm tired of it.
He needs to take some offensive skill lessons from Risto, because that was a dirty assist.
That was beautiful.
Dirty move the other day.
Beautiful.
That was very pretty.
And that's why I look, if Risto ends up going at the trade deadline, I don't think anybody in the world is going to blame the guy. But
no,
I would like to keep him.
Me too.
I would like to in a big way. He's big, he's right-handed, he's nasty, he's physical, he's got some offense. Like that's a rare combination, and he's not going to be our top defenseman.
Right. And he pisses off the 50% of Twitter that I generally don't agree with. So makes for some entertaining chit chats.
And amazing quotes in the press, by the way.
Yeah, shit burgers.
Shit burger. There you go.
That was fantastic.
Delightfully European.
Mm-hmm. Now, kind of elaborating on this, let's say the Flyers go out and get Kadri. We did kind of talk about this. What type of price tag do you put to that? I mean, free agent, he's a guy that's going to sign somewhere, and it's probably going to be a big deal. What type of money are we talking about when it comes to Kadri? I'll go to you first, John.
Well, that's the problem. I mean, he's going to be at a price tag right now that I wouldn't be comfortable with the Flyers.
What's he at now?
$9 million probably he's going to get for the season he's had.
That's like high too. Like,
yeah, the season that he's had. I mean, those numbers, like he's not that player, and it's all because of who he's playing with. But I mean, if we could get like the Kadri who was like 4 or 5 million, and again, you'd probably have to find a way to move Hayes because I don't know if you need Kadri and Hayes, but
at that point, you're sticking Kadri on the third line,
right?
Yeah.
Kadri's
making $4.5 million right now. Like the contract before that was 4.1 for a year. Contract before that was 2.9 for 2 years. Like this guy hasn't made over $4.5 million a year in his entire career, and now he's going to end up with a Kevin Hayes type deal, if not more.
Right, he might wind up with like 7 on the low end because a team might say, hey, you did this last year, but you have never done this before.
Right. Good luck doing this in in Arizona because they're going to money up that kind of money.
Oh yeah. What do you think, Matt Casey?
I mean, at 4.5 now, the guy's 31. Are we saying what you would take him for, or what do you think he's actually going to get?
What do you think he's actually going to get on the open market?
I bet he'll get probably close to 7 is my bet. I think he has too much against him. It's like he didn't, I don't know. You're playing with that high velocity of star power in Colorado. Like, I don't know. I think it's tough to really sell that you are exclusively, the one adding to that. And I also think the age thing. I mean, isn't Giroux 31 or 32? And we're like,
34.
he's so old. He's
34.
so old.
He's 34.
Oh, is he?
Yeah,
All
Drew's 34.
Ancient.
Mhm.
And he's gonna want a he's not signing a 1-year deal somewhere.
Right.
Mm.
So, what are we really getting? And the thing you forget about Kevin Hayes, which I forget about, is isn't he 28? Like he's still got a couple of years ahead of him.
Yeah.
Hopefully they're healthy.
Yeah.
Big if.
Like Yager's more healthy than Hayes. That's right.
What do you think Kadri gets on the open market, Hoagie?
I'm going anywhere between 6 and 7. I think teams are just going to look at his past history, and they're not going to want to pay him what he believes he's worth. The $7+ million. I think he's on an all-star team with Colorado with dynamic talent. He's got 41 assists. That's just him passing the puck to these guys that are just natural born goal scorers. Like
on a team that's scoring 5 goals on average a game.
Yeah, something like that.
He's not going to produce that anywhere else. Like it's just not going to make sense. And the Flyers are going to try to do it. I know they are, and they're all be stupid. It'll bite us in the butt if we end up trying to do it.
If we end up getting him at 6, are you guys upset though?
No,
I'm not.
Nope. I'm not even at 7.
Depending on the term.
Okay,
Right.
fair point. All right, so let's say 4 years, $6 million.
That's where I cap it. That's where I cap it.
I'd take it.
Yeah. Absolutely. 4 years, he's 35 by the time that deal runs out.
Flip flopped on him. That was great. Yeah, I'd take it.
Well, 4 years isn't bad when you're considering his age. And then $6 million, okay, we've got JVR and Hayes making more than that. And they're
right. With our luck, he'll be injured for 2 of them. So, we'll get some LTIR.
Now, how do you think the league's perception changes if Kadri reverts back to the Kadri of old, taking stupid penalties, just doing dumb stuff by the end of the year? Like, let's say he has another incident, towards the end of the year where he, God knows, slew foots a guy or does something just incredibly boneheaded. Like, how do you think the perception and the potential contract that he gets next season could be affected by something like that?
I mean, I would actually hope if the Flyers wanted to get him, I hope he does something stupid because it would probably bring the price down a little bit.
I mean, you look at how big of a steal is D'Angelo looking at right now. Like, nobody wanted to touch that guy years ago, and rightly so. But he looks like a steal right now.
Yep.
Yeah. Hoagie, your thoughts?
If it brings the price down, why not? But I mean, why pay a player so much when he's taking a dumb penalty in the playoffs and getting suspended for 4-6 games?
We can pay NAK nothing to do that,
Right.
Not anymore. We can't.
But Knack wasn't getting suspended. He was just
scoring off Kadri's assists. That's what's happening now.
Right out of the penalty box.
So let's flip over to Gaudreau here then too, real quick. So obviously Gaudreau is probably the more established of the two. Let's say that. I'm pretty certain that's the case. What do you think Gaudreau is going to command on the open market here? John?
I suck at this game.
That's why I'm happy to play it.
Man.
I'm bringing you back down.
I mean, I don't think he's between 8 and 9.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
he's 6'7" right now.
6'7" right now.
I can't see him being a 10+ player. I think that's insanity. So 8.5, 9 at the max, just because of also who else is on the market dictates it too, right? And he's probably going to be one of the more flashier names that are available. So that's going to drive the price up.
Mm-hmm. Matt Casey.
Yeah, I mean, I'd go 8.5 at the very least, but he could get up to 10. And I don't want to touch that.
Hoagie.
I'm like John. I hate this game. I'm not a numbers guy. Once we get into contracts, it's just like
I peak at long division. I'm a 4th grade teacher.
I'd say 9.5 is where I'd cap it for the Flyers at least. But I mean, he's only want to try to demand more. He's proven it as a player.
Yeah. I have a hard time believing he's going to end up a $10 million guy, but at the same rate, there's a team out there that would likely do that. It's a matter of whether he would sign that contract or not. Definitely not the Flyers. I really don't think they'd offer that much money for him, but price is right. I'd say I think he could take up Giroux's cap hit, that 8.275, something like that. If the Flyers could get him at that, I could stomach it. I'm not going to be, over the moon about it.
I'd be fine with that, to be honest with you, because I think it could be so much more.
And there's a reason why Couturier signed the sort of quote unquote hometown deal that he did, is to bring in players that can help them win. So it's like, all right, if this is the guy that you could think and get them at least on the hump, not even over the hump, like on the hump, then, I'd say you go for it.
Yeah, you gotta have to. You're gonna have to do something. I mean, Dave Scott's writing blank checks here, so might as well capitalize on that.
I think it's also gonna depend on how I hate saying this, how much the younger guys or that kind of sophomore class develops from a forward standpoint for the rest of the season. To be okay, I'm trying to think of it Frost. Okay, we're comfortable with Frost actually coming in and playing a 3C, potentially jumping up to a 2C role. I don't see it right now, but players like that come in, because you're going to have to take discounts somewhere, and it's got to be on homegrown players who are still on friendly contracts.
Well, and the reality is, and then Derek, I'll shut up for 5 minutes, maybe. No, it's too long. Maybe
Probably
3.5. It really all depends on who else gets moved too, because if they move a guy like Konechny, right, and they start saying, now I've got to fill in all these extra holes, it really all depends. If they are able to get rid of JVR, you've got extra money, but then you're looking at depleted wingers, depleted centers.
Right.
It's all about who gets moved and where they need to allocate all of this money, if it has to be more equally dispensed throughout the lines to make it a team worth icing.
Yeah. No, I mean, ideally, you're looking at, if you pick up Gaudreau, he'll be your first line winger. You've got a goal scorer there, potentially, hopefully. Maybe I'm off base here, but I could see midway through next year, if he stays healthy and continues to produce at the AHL level, I could see a Tyson Forrester call up. Not saying that's the right move, not saying that I'm hoping for it, but I could see it. I could absolutely see it. That gives you, Forrester would be a goal scorer at this level, I'm assuming, as well, which would be nice because the Flyers need that. That could give you two solid options, and then Cam Atkinson on top of it. If we ever see JVR again, return to form, which unlikely, you've got some goal scorers there, guys that know how to put the puck in the back of the net. So, again, broader scope here, I'm taking Gaudreau over Kadri no matter what. But, I like what Gaudreau brings to the table, and that's what Philadelphia needs at this point. We don't need a Kadri. We don't need another guy who, just throws assists. That's why we got rid of Voracek, Yeah.
We're about to get rid of the other guy who just throws assists too, in Giroux. So all of a sudden we might be starved for a couple of assists at some point, but
we could. But we also have Couturier again, if he stays healthy, which I feel like you could say that about 90% of these guys at this point. Couturier knows how to dish the puck, so we've got that. Hayes can, he's up and down with that. So it is what it is.
If he's healthy.
Again, the asterisk. It's this conversation will rage, I'm sure, as the weeks go by.
Can I ask a question kind of unrelated here? But one, I thought Ratcliffe looked decent the other day. He's clearly a big boy and laid some body. What's his John, the prospect pool a little bit better than I do, but what is he at best a third line winger? What's he?
Yeah, I think so.
Really?
I can't see it being any more.
So it's we're flushed with the bottom six still.
Yeah. Well, when we had that website for a hot minute, and I went through all of the prospects, it was if you look at our forward prospects, it's like we've got so many who just like top out at the third line.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's just no star power there. And I think at one point they were hoping that he would be able to kind of fill into his frame a little bit more and still use that flash that he had in the OHL. But we all know that playing at that level is deceiving, and he's just nowhere near that player.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's really all I've got to add to this conversation too. I don't know if anybody has any lasting points they want to make.
Actually, I had one question that we didn't get to, but one of the things that stood out to me was this whole conversation with Giroux and it being like it's his decision. Could you see a situation where Claude Giroux goes, you know what? I don't want to be traded.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Could you imagine? Like I've been thinking about that, and now I can't get it out of my mind. Where he goes, you know what? I don't want to move. I'll test the market in the summer, but I just want to stay put for the rest of the year, and the Flyers get nothing out of this.
I could see it.
I don't see that happening. I don't think he'll do it.
Yeah.
But
I can see him coming back.
I can't see that. I think this guy's about done.
It's a tough ask.
I think he can sign a team-friendly deal if they overpromise and underdeliver. I mean, that's on him.
Derek knows all about that, don't you, buddy?
Yeah, we know that.
I think at this point, like, if I'm the Flyers, like, not to be a dick, I don't know if I want him back. It's not because of a skill thing. I just think there needs to be a change. And so I think the direction needs to be different than Giroux as the leader.
Think of your psyche too.
Same khaki pants all week long.
Like, think of your psyche though. You go from captain of this team to trade it away or whatever, signing somewhere else, and then coming back, and you're not captain anymore. The team's moved on. It's like, are you going to be able to find your role in the same locker room that you once held court?
Yeah, because they'll still give him an alternate.
Couturier comes over on his crutches in the locker room and goes, "Look at me. Look at me. I'm the captain now." And then gimps away.
Let's be honest. It'll be Scott Long that does that.
Shut the hell up.
Then
I'm the captain now.
Then you got the two A's. You got Hayes and Ellis in wheelchairs rolling next to Couturier.
Oh, God.
There they are.
His cronies.
Our leadership team.
It's like, here come those WW2 veterans. Oh, no, wait. It's just the Flyers starting lineup.
I should have said captain and assistant captains, and they've got people holding them up on the ice.
like Weekend at Bernie's.
I should have asked if anybody had anything of value to contribute to this before we moved on here, but here we are.
Speaking of value, let's go to the dad joke.
Yeah. Hoagie, do you have a dad joke in mind that you want to enlighten us with?
I do, actually. I have it written down for you, gentlemen.
Just say the stupid joke.
Oh, John doesn't like the dad joke.
Written down for you, gentlemen.
Says the guy that never understands these things. How?
All right. Why did the Mexican take anti-anxiety medication?
Nope. See you later. I am not going anywhere near this. Nope.
For his panic attacks.
What?
Hispanic attacks.
I want to
See, you jumped the gun, John. That wasn't bad.
No, that was bad. Just a different.
All three of you at the same time just went, oh, shit.
We said dad joke, not the other kind of joke.
All right, that was good.
I guess
fun.
it lasted.
I found some humor in it. I mean, maybe that just makes me a terrible person. I don't know. Shocker.
Oh, I get it.
Oh my God. I can't do this anymore.
Oh, God.
All right.
Moving on.
I'm going to be the first person to retire from this podcast.
Say goodbye.
I'm just going to call it quits and hang up my headphones one last time.
So dramatic of you.
You can hoist my headphones into the rafters. Hoagie, let everybody know where they're going to be able to find you, man.
Pod Street Hose on that Twitter app thing.
Matt Casey.
Hey, it's Pod Street Casey. CASEY spelled out. Pod Street. The way you spell it.
Hoagie, you're the biggest cheese ball that I've ever met. On that Twitter app thing.
I've said it how many times before and it just got to you?
It's just cheese ball. All right.
Hey,
Well, we can find this podcast on all your various podcast listening receptacles, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Amazon Music, Stitcher, maybe, I don't know, Google Podcasts, and all the other good ones, Deezer, aka D's Nuts. And if you're looking for a new place to listen to us, Google it. And YouTube. We're on YouTube.
Netscape Podcast. That's our new thing. Netscape
Podcast. Internet Explorer.pod.
How about Firefox?
AOL.com.
Shut up, Bogey.
We're on Instant Messenger as well at PodST.
All right,
Boys.
you've done it now. You've gone too far.
Oh, never too far. You can find me on Twitter, PodStreetBob. John's on Twitter, PodStreetGove. You can find all of us on Twitter at PodSTBullies. Check out our affiliates as well over at Flyers High and Wide and the 5 Minute Major podcast. But until then, folks, we'll have a new episode for you next week. And try to enjoy some Flyers hockey if you can.
One game. That's all.
One game this week. You'll be all right.
Bye
now.
Bye now.